So, if you're the same age as me, you witnessed quite a few changes in consumer electronics. Technological leaps, huge jumps in computer performance, sound and video quality, smartphone and internet revolutions, miniaturization, and so on. But one more drastic change that caught my eye recently, in particular while I was setting up my storage, is the way data and power interfaces changed throughout the years. Going through my collection of various electronic doodads from the past, I couldn't noticing just how many goddamn cables I have to own to support and use these guys. And yeah, it doesn't seem too long ago that every single item that took electricity, be it a phone, a notebook, a tablet, a computer, used its own charger, had its own proprietary ports, and its own way of interfacing with things like a dock, cradle, monitor, printer, or what have you. And I do remember when I was still a kid, I had absolutely no idea what most of these weird ports did on my computers. I just knew the floppy went into the floppy port and the CDs go in the CD tray. And while things like USB started taking off by the turn of the century, it was primarily used for modest data and signal transfers, as it could only handle something like 2.5 watts, so it wasn't really ideal for power delivery. And I guess it wasn't until around 2010 that I've personally started noticing the unification of some standards, in particular in the mobile and tablet space with micro USB, and also, for example, the high definition video signals with HDMI, which had become ubiquitous by that point. But nowadays it seems as if we're slowly converging to a single port environment, with everything having either a USB-C or a Thunderbolt connector for seemingly everything. Phones have long dropped all other connectivity, including audio jacks, in favor of USB-C and just wireless technologies like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Qi coils. But PCs have also been straying in that direction for years now, especially in Apple space, and while there are arguments to support both the need for a unified connector and separate standards, there's clearly a tendency to just ditch all of those for a single form and multifunction port. And that role has most prominently been held by something called Thunderbolt in Apple computers for almost a decade and a half, and it's quite a story how it took over their notebooks completely. And if you're wondering what's that cool looking dock I've been flashing at you, well, it came in just in time for this video about Thunderbolt, and it's actually what makes it all work, since chances are without something like this nice dock from ORICO, you couldn't do much with that Thunderbolt port. It's a really beautiful piece of hardware made out of aluminum, and it absolutely goes great with your Macs. It not only expands on the ports which you'll be missing on your device like USB-A 3.2 and 2.0, but also Ethernet, HDMI, additional 3.5mm audio jack with a freaking volume knob to boot. It also exploits Thunderbolt PCIe speeds and functionality and enables you to add an additional M.2 NVMe SSD for extra storage. And if you, for example, have a base model MacBook with non-upgradable storage, I mean, this pretty much takes care of that. It also supports 4K video output, which will draw up to 2 monitors. So if you have computers with Thunderbolt or USB-C 4 ports, this is an absolute best way to get the most out of them. And if you like this particular one and you'd like to support me, head on to ORICO's site using the link in my description. And yeah, I'd like to thank them for helping me out with this video, and on with talking about Thunderbolt. First, a little backstory on the format, since Thunderbolt really has a long and rooted history as well as an interesting story and trivia. I always consider Thunderbolt to be sort of a Trojan horse, since when it came onto the Apple scene in 2011, it took the shape of an existing port, which Apple had switched to using around 2008, which is a mini display port. But the functionality reached far beyond what that standard could do, since it also carried other signals as well as power, very much in line with another Apple exclusive and favorite, FireWire, which was by that point in time becoming obsolete with USB 3 introduction, which greatly surpassed their FireWire 800 standard. And I always found it kind of ridiculous that they went from using a pretty well established video output standard on their previous generation of MacBook Pros, a nice full-size DVI port, to, especially at that point, a somewhat niche and still not that widely supported mini version of the DisplayPort. And even by 2006, when they switched to Intel, we already had a wide and growing support for HDMI, especially with things like the PS3 and Blu-ray players hitting the scene, but we wouldn't get that on MacBooks until years later. Apple tried justifying omitting it in a million ways as they do, but I suspect them opting for mini DisplayPort and then later Thunderbolt has to do with licensing, especially since they were collaborating on those things with Intel, with whom they had an interesting but working relationship at that point. Anyway, yeah, I hated that thing back when I daily drove a unibody Mac, since all I wanted to do, and indeed other people, is not use the port itself, but rather to adapt it to HDMI or some other more widespread port. And it was at that point that I formed an opinion that I hold somewhat true even today, and that's that I wasn't interested in using the interface itself, but rather just adapting it to something else. So it was like a port that was only a gateway to other connectors for me, and while it did a great job adapting to various other uses, it just felt like a nuisance to me. Thunderbolt 1, initially known as Lightpeak, was introduced in 2009 by Intel, initially as an optical cable, capable not only of carrying various different data streams, but also doing so at long lengths and blazing fast speeds, and it was surprisingly initially based on USB shape. By 2011, the technology was not only compact and matured enough to fit in a laptop, but they've also figured out a way to do it using regular copper traces instead of optics, which enabled them to carry power as well. They've also changed the connector itself to the mini DisplayPort shape. And on Apple's part, it was marketed as a neat high-speed I/O successor to FireWire with extra features. It was a nice companion to otherwise somewhat robust I/O by Apple standards, especially on the 2012 model where they finally added an HDMI port. In 2013, they upped the generation to Thunderbolt 2, which offered extra speed, up to 20 gigabits a second. And the Retina models really retained a somewhat competitive set of ports and connectors, with those bolts of thunder being, in my view, a somewhat less convenient but handy option. The reason I say that is because, again, it was advertised as being a multifaceted interface, but much like anything that claims that does it all, if I wanted to use it as a USB, I'd just use a USB-A port. If I wanted a video port, I'd use HDMI. And if I wanted to use Ethernet, I'd use... Well, yeah, by that point they have excluded the freaking Ethernet port, but that was entirely expected since they were evangelizing the whole wireless mantra, which had peaked with the introduction of the 2015 MacBook redesign, an absolute epitome of, yep, from now on you're sure as heck using dongles. And by the next year, along with some other changes, including the questionable keyboard design, we got even more prominent use of Thunderbolt across the board on pretty much the entire Mac lineup. But unlike the Retina models, we switched to using a new form factor, no longer resembling the mini DisplayPort connector, but rather USB-C, which by that point had started to be more widely used in things like smartphones and tablets. This particular standard was now called Thunderbolt 3, and it not only carried over all the legacy features of USB 3.1 Gen 2, it also doubled the data transfer speeds to 40 gigabits a second and increased the number of PCIe lanes, all while using up less power, being able to drive two 4K displays, and so on. So if the previous generations had you buy, say, an Ethernet adapter if you wanted to use that, for Macs of this generations, you were pretty much forced to buy a dongle if you wanted to interface your device in any other way other than wirelessly. And while nowadays seemingly everyone owns a dongle or a dock of some sort, and the market is full of really affordable, great options for every budget, back then on day one that certainly wasn't the case, and since Thunderbolt 3 standard was somewhat new, there were also many incompatibility issues, especially with video. And it wasn't only the dongles and converters that were expensive, but cables too, and that's something that's very true to this day. Just recently I wanted to buy a Thunderbolt 2 cable on eBay for that stupid Apple display, and even those still cost an astounding amount for the length of cable you're getting, but modern first-party cables from Apple, just absolute insanity. And while you can go off-brand and third-party since the royalty situation opened up somewhat in 2017, you're still paying an order of magnitude more what you would pay for an ordinary USB, HDMI, or DisplayPort cable. And apart from the updates we've seen in 2020 and 2023 to the standard itself, the latter one offering double the bandwidth of the previous generations and up to 240 watts of charging power, among other things, there were also some other changes in the implementation of ports on Macs. In 2021, they have inexplicably eased up on the Thunderbolt exclusivity by surprisingly bringing back some of the lost ports, such as MagSafe for power, HDMI for video, and an SD card slot for data transfers. And while you could still do all those things with Thunderbolt, it's such a nice change of pace to finally have some of that direct access to older standards they tried so hard to replace outright. Now, I'm still not happy about having to go through dongles and converters to get my Ethernet and USB-A, but if that's a deal breaker to you, there are plenty of other manufacturers who don't treat Thunderbolt as a primary but rather a complementary interface, one that's absolutely amazing and revolutionary, but also one that you shouldn't really rely on as your sole option when connecting to outside peripherals. And in the newer generations of Thunderbolt, it's sometimes hard to tell them apart from the USB-C standard like USB 4, since it has steadily been catching up to what Thunderbolt is capable of. But even with all that, I do think Apple and some other manufacturers have been on the wrong path as far as relying on it solely, and I do think it's not too much to ask to have to go through adapters still to attain that USB-A or, for example, Ethernet connectivity. And I guess that's how I feel about the whole situation, as I really like Thunderbolt, but I kinda hated the reliance on it as the end-all and be-all of connectivity. What are your thoughts on it, and how do you use it, if at all? Please tell me in the comments, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. And I'd also like to thank you for watching, and if you enjoy this type of content, perhaps you'll like some of my other stuff too. I do videos like this every week, reviews, retrospectives, repairs, and all sorts of other nerdy tech stuff. If you'd like to support what I do and also get early access to my videos, you can join my Patreon page for just $1 a month, or more if you'd like. If you'd like to chat with me and other users, you can join our Discord server. All the links will be in the video description. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers!